to believe the scariest sound in the world was silence. But I was wrong. It's the muffled sound of your child crying behind a locked door. It started like any other Tuesday. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon from the candle I lit in. The kitchen that morning? It's a kind of small domestic ritual I clung to ever since Claire and I were on our own. I found comfort in the routine. I made her lunch, packed her school bag, checked her homework. She smiled at me when I dropped her. That sleepy, half-lidded grin she gives when she's pretending she's okay. I should have known then, but I didn't. I spent the day working from home, taking calls from the tiny desk in the corner of the living room. The house was quiet. I even folded the laundry for once. By the time she came back, just after 4, backpack was slung lazily off one shoulder, and she barely mumbled hey before disappearing down the hall again. I should have known. Claire's always been the kind of girl who draws hearts on napkins and leaves me notes in my work planner. She once taped a stick figure comic of us to the bathroom mirror, where I'm wearing a cape and saving her from a test at school. She's bright, a little weird. It's tender in a world that keeps trying to rough her up. That day, it gave her space. Maybe because I was tired. Maybe because I didn't want to admit I felt the distance growing between us. Maybe I thought, she's a teenager now. They go quiet sometimes. You hear that a lot, and you start using it like a shield. But silence isn't always moody. Sometimes it's a scream you can't hear yet. It was just after 6 when I noticed something strange. I was heading to the kitchen to start dinner, but I passed her room and saw the door cracked open. Lights off, bed untouched. I called her name. Softly, no answer. I turned toward the bathroom and saw the light beneath the door. I stopped. Claire, I knocked gently. You okay, sweetheart? No sound. I felt a pulse behind my eyes. Not panic yet, but something close. A static buzz under the skin. I knocked harder. Claire, baby, answer me. Still nothing. I put my ear to the door. I could hear something, then barely. Breathing, shaky. A sniffle. The sound of fabric rustling. I don't know. My chest tightened. I tried the handle. Locked. Claire, open the door. My voice cracked. Could hear my heart now, pounding inside my ears. I pressed my palm flat against the door, tried to keep calm, tried not to imagine anything terrible. I thought about the mirror above the sink, the corners of the counter, the pills in the cabinet. My voice dropped to a whisper. Please, baby. Open the door, please. Still nothing. I ran to the garage, grabbed the flathead screwdriver I use for everything, and came back. My hands were shaking. I told myself it was probably nothing. Probably just a bad day. A panic attack. Maybe she didn't want me to see her cry. Maybe the door clicked open. It was warm inside, humid. The mirror was fogged around the edges. The air smelled like her shampoo and something else. It's like wax and berries and something sweet gone sour. She wasn't there. For a second, I panicked. Thought she might have slipped and fallen behind the tub. Or God. I don't even know what I thought. But then I saw it. On the mirror. Written in thick, smudged strokes of red lipstick across the glass. I'm sorry. Didn't know how to tell you. And below it, a heart. Drawn exactly like the ones she used to leave on napkins. I stood there. For what felt like minutes, the world dulled. The hum of the ceiling light above me became louder than thought. The letters began to blur. My hands went cold, and then, slowly, saw something else. Another line written just beneath, fainter, and almost wiped away, like she'd started to remove it and changed her mind. Ask her why she called me a liar. For handwriting? I stepped back. My breath caught in my throat. Her. Who is she talking about? Then I heard the front door open. Voice I hadn't heard in months, floated in, casual, familiar, like it belonged there. Her mother. I hadn't seen Emily in 6 months, not in person. It's grainy images on social media. It's filtered smiles and curated captions that made it look like she was thriving somewhere I wasn't allowed to be. We barely spoke, outside of custody handoffs, and terse text messages about Claire's schedule. So when I heard her voice now, drifting down the hallway like this, was still her home. Something in me cracked. I walked slowly out of the bathroom, past the hallway photo frames. Some of them still holding pictures of the 3 of us even, if Claire had turned a few of them face down over the months. Emily stood in the entryway, shaking rain from her coat, holding a paper bag of what smelled like takeout. tie, her favorite. Like nothing had changed. Her eyes met mine. She froze. Her smile died before it fully formed. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice low, raw. "I told Claire I'd drop by," she said, adjusting the strap of her purse like it would protect her. "She asked if we could talk. I thought it was okay." I stared at her, trying to make sense of what she just said. "She called you?" Emily's brow furrowed. "Yes, she left me a voicemail earlier. Said she needed to tell me something, but that it was hard to talk about over the phone." That static in my chest returned. Not rage, not even confusion. Something deeper. Something like betrayal, but colder. I glanced down the hall toward Claire's room. The door was still open. Empty. I turned back to Emily. Did she say anything? About what it was about? Emily hesitated. Her mouth opened, then closed again. "No, just that she needed to clear the air about something," she sounded. Off. There was a flicker of something behind her eyes. Something she didn't want to say yet. I knew that look. I'd seen it before, years ago, right before we split. It wasn't guilt, it was fear. The kind of fear that crawls in when you know your version of the story might not survive the truth. "She left a message for me too," said. Walking back into the bathroom, Emily followed. When she saw the mirror, her breath caught, her hand went to her mouth, and she staggered. Back half a step. I watched her, carefully. I was done missing signs. I needed to see everything now. "Ask her why she called me a liar," I read aloud, slowly letting each word settle. Emily didn't speak. She just stood there, silent. Her eyes filled, but not with sadness. No, it wasn't that. It was shame. Leaned in gently, my voice almost a whisper. "What did you say to her?" She blinked quickly, too quickly. "What? Don't do that. Don't pretend. I need to know right now." Her lip trembled. She looked away. And in that silence, I knew. She didn't have to say it. Claire had told her something. Something important. And instead of listening, Emily had shut it down, dismissed it, maybe even accused her of making it up. I could see the story piecing itself together, small fragments, out of sequence, but forming a picture, flash, Claire. Standing at the edge of the kitchen, saying something carefully, softly flash Emily, turning around too quickly, her voice rising. Claire's door slamming that night months ago. I thought it was just a typical mother-daughter fight. I swallowed hard. "You called her a liar." Emily wiped a tear from her cheek, nodding once barely. I thought. She was confused. She whispered. It didn't make sense. What she said? It didn't make sense. Thought maybe she'd misunderstood. I stepped back, heart pounding. "What did she tell you?" Emily looked up at me and finally, said it. "She said your brother touched her." The room shrank. The walls pressed in, my knees nearly gave, and in that moment, everything made sense. The sudden withdrawal, the nightmares. The quiet distance she built between herself and me. Even though I hadn't done anything, because I hadn't done anything, except bring that man into our home. The floor felt unsteady beneath me, like the house itself had shifted, like everything I thought was solid had turned into something hollow and cruel. My brother, it's a man who'd once carried Claire on his shoulders through Central Park, who brought her puzzles on Christmas mornings, who taught her how to skip rocks across the lake at the cabin. That same man, the one I'd invited into our world, into her world. I remember when he moved in for a few weeks, just after his divorce. I told Emily it was temporary, that he needed support. That family looks after family. Claire had been 10, then just old enough to have secrets, young enough to still believe everyone who smiled at her meant it. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. Emily collapsed onto the closed toilet lid, elbows on her knees, face buried in her hands. "I didn't know what to believe," she murmured. "She told me at dinner one night, when you were out of town." I panicked. Chai said she must be confused, that your brother, that he would never. I thought she was misremembering something. "You called her a liar?" I said again, and this time it wasn't a question. It was a wound. "She ran to her room and didn't speak to me for 2 days," Emily whispered. "After that, she stopped talking about it. I thought maybe, I don't know, I wanted it to go away, wanted to scream at her, at myself, at the goddamn universe. But I couldn't afford rage, not now, not when my daughter had been carrying that secret, alone. In the echo of every silence I mistook for teenage angst. I remember she stopped sitting in his lap. I said almost to myself. Stopped hugging him goodbye, I noticed, but I thought it was just growing up. She used to crawl into my bed when she had nightmares. Then she stopped doing that too. I thought it meant she was getting stronger. It meant she was hiding. I walked into her room. Everything was still in place, books stacked by the nightstand, hoodie draped over the chair, a half-empty can of root beer on the dresser. But the air felt colder in here, like the absence of her weighed more than her presence ever did. I sat on her bed and looked at her pillow. Tucked just underneath was her journal. Kay hesitated, then pulled it out. It wasn't locked. Claire never believed in keeping things from me. I opened to the last page. There, in small, trembling handwriting, was this: if I disappear, maybe someone will finally believe me. My throat tightened. I could barely see through the film of tears. Then I flipped back a few pages. There were drawings, scribbled hearts, broken in two. A tiny stick-figure girl in a red dress standing alone on one side of a river with two shadowy figures on the other side. She'd labeled them Mom and Dad. In between them, the river was black. Okay. Underneath, in pencil, I'm drowning. And they don't see me. Another flashback slammed into me. Her 13th birthday. She sat quietly through cake. When we sang to her, she didn't smile. Just stared at the flame on her candle like it was the only thing keeping her warm. I just want one thing, she said softly that night as I tucked her in. What's that? I'd asked, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. For everyone to tell the truth? I'd laugh then, not out of malice, just ignorance. That's a big wish. She nodded. I know. That's why no one gives it to me. No. Her words echoed like a scream in a cave. I stood, gripping the journal. Emily came to the doorway, her eyes swollen, mascara smeared. We have to find her, I said. She could be anywhere, Emily said, voice cracking. She left no note, no message. She did, I said, turning the journal toward her. She just didn't think we were listening. I grabbed my keys, my phone, and my coat. Call her friends, her school. Check her location history. I'll check the park. She doesn't go to the park anymore, Emily started. She used to. It's with him, I snapped. Then softer. That's why she stopped. I bet she still goes, just not during the day. Pieces were there. The signs, the missed moments, the quiet disappearances after dark. The hood pulled over her head, the headphones she wore. Louder and louder. I thought she was growing up. She was surviving. Now, it was time to find her before she disappeared completely. The night was cold. One of those summer nights that trick you. Still, dark, deceptively silent. I drove through the quiet streets with the windows cracked, hoping for a sign. Anything. My heart thudded against the steering wheel. Every stoplight felt like punishment. Every turn held 1,000 possibilities of finding her, or not. I checked the places she used to love first. The coffee shop with the yellow benches. The playground near the school where she and I used to race to the swings. Nothing. Just the kind of stillness that makes your skin itch. Then I pulled up to the old park. The one by the river. The one she used to beg me to take her to before the visit stopped. The gate was still open. One of the street lamps flickered overhead, casting long shadows that swayed with the trees. I parked, cut the engine, and sat in the silence for a moment, and then I saw it. A sliver of red, hued up. Sitting at the edge of the small bridge that crossed the stream. Claire, her legs dangled over the side, just above the water. She was perfectly still, the way a statue is still, or the way someone is when they're trying not to fall apart. I didn't call out. I didn't run. I walked. Slowly, letting the crunch of gravel beneath my shoes announce my presence. She didn't move. I sat down beside her, a few feet away, not too close. Her voice was soft, barely audible. You read the mirror? I nodded. I did. Pause. Did you read the journal? Another nod. I did. She pulled her knees up, wrapping her arms around them. Then I looked at her. Okay. The curve of her cheek, the way her eyes stayed fixed on the dark water below. Oh, she wasn't crying. She looked emptied. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. She didn't answer right away. "Just let the night settle between us." "I told her because I thought she'd help," she said, voice trembling now. "She always says how strong women speak up." So I spoke. But when I said it, she looked at me like I'd killed someone. "Believe you?" I said. Her head turned slightly, eyes flicking toward mine. I repeated it, firmer this time. "I believe you, Claire." She exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath for months. "I didn't want to make things worse," she said. I thought, maybe if I just forgot about it, it would go away. But it didn't. It stayed in my head. Every time I looked at the mirror, it felt like he was still there. My throat tightened. I wanted to reach out to hold her, but I waited. She needed space to speak without interruption. "Without fear, you didn't make anything worse," I said. Finally, he did, and I did, by not seeing it. And she did, by not listening. "But you tried to tell the truth." Her lip quivered, and she looked away again. "I thought I was broken," she said, "because no one believed me." I shook my head. "You're not broken. You're brave." Another pause. "I don't want to see him again," she said. "You won't?" I answered. "I swear to you, Claire, I will make sure of that." The night around us hummed with the sound of cicadas. A train horn sounded far off in the distance. Claire leaned her head slowly against my shoulder. Not all the way, just enough, and in that tiny movement, I knew she still trusted me. Little? Maybe just enough. We sat there like that, unmoving. The water beneath the bridge reflected bits of starlight. The current was slow, gentle, but constant. After a while, I asked, "Can I take you home?" She nodded. We didn't speak. On the drive. But when I parked in front of the house, she asked, "Are you going to tell her?" I looked at her, a weight in her voice. "No," I said. "I want you to." She blinked. "What?" "She needs to hear it from you. Not just the story, but how it felt, how it feels now. And if she's willing to listen this time, she can earn back a piece of you. But it's your story, Claire, not mine." She didn't answer right away, but something in her eyes changed. A flicker, a spark. It's not joy, not relief, but control. It's a sense that this wasn't something that just happened to her. It was something she could own now. Later that night, after she went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table, turning the journal over in my hands. My phone buzzed. A message from Emily. "She okay?" I didn't respond. I took a breath, opened my laptop, and began researching lawyers. The days that followed were a blur of appointments, quiet stares, and measured words. Claire didn't say much, but something had shifted. She started brushing her hair again in the mornings, ate most of her breakfast without me asking twice. She even left her bedroom door open once. Small things, but after what we'd been through, it felt monumental. I had already found a trauma-informed therapist by daybreak after we came home, someone who specialized in adolescence. Claire agreed to go quietly, without resistance. It wasn't hope that moved her. It was exhaustion. But I knew it was a beginning. Meanwhile, I started building the case. I didn't tell Emily everything. Not yet. But I sent her a message. "Claire will speak to you, one time. After that, everything goes through me or a lawyer." She didn't reply. I met with an attorney the next morning. A woman named Sandra Collins. Older, sharp-eyed, and painfully direct. I laid it all out, every sickening detail. Her fingers never stopped typing. When I finished, she looked at me for a long time before speaking. "You understand how difficult this will be," she said. "It's not just a legal matter, it's psychological warfare. There'll be doubt, denial, character assassination. I don't care," I said. She nodded once, slowly. Then we began. I gave her everything. The journal, a scanned image of the message on the mirror, a transcript of what Claire remembered, the therapy intake notes. We moved carefully, quietly. No dramatic police visits. No public accusations, because I knew how this worked. If we moved too fast, too loud, we risked re-traumatizing Claire. We needed evidence, consistency. The truth was on our side, but the truth alone doesn't always win. Meanwhile, I began looking through old security footage. From our doorbell cam, it's from the grocery store near the park. I combed through digital records like a man possessed, and I found things, small things, but they lined up. My brother had been alone in the house more than I remembered. Twice Claire's school reported her missing afternoon classes once. When I thought she was with Emily, once when she claimed to be sick. Texts from him to her, buried in her old tablet's cloud backup. Messages like, "You can't tell anyone, okay? No one will believe you." My stomach turned. I handed everything to Sandra. She said nothing. Just kept collecting, building the scaffolding of a case that would shake our entire family tree, and still. I waited. I waited for the moment Emily would ask the real question. And then, one night it came. She showed up at my door. No warning. Her face pale, drawn, eyes hollow. "I need to talk to her," she said. "She's asleep." Emily hesitated. "Then talk to me." I stepped outside, pulled the door closed behind me. The porch light cast long shadows across her face. "She told me everything," she said, voice cracking. I listened this time. I said nothing. I didn't want it to be true. I told myself she was confused because I didn't want to believe someone I trusted could do that. Someone you trusted. What? She looked me in the eye, and I saw it. Kai saw what I didn't let myself see before. Still, I said nothing. Kai stared. She wiped her eyes. I failed her. I nodded slowly. Yes. She closed her eyes like the word itself had cut her. "Do you think she'll ever forgive me?" she asked. "She shouldn't have to," I said. "This isn't about your redemption." Emily blinked, stunned. "Then what is it about?" I leaned forward, gently. "It's about what you do now." She didn't speak again, nodded. Once, then turned and walked back into the night, disappearing down the steps. The sound of her shoes echoing against the stone. The next morning, I got a message from Sandra. She called me, said she's willing to testify on Claire's behalf. It wasn't absolution, but it was a start. And somewhere behind all the fear, I felt something begin to shift. A reckoning was coming. The hearing wasn't public. Not yet. Sandra advised against it. This was about protection, not punishment, not yet. First, we needed validation, a legal record. A shield. Claire sat across the table from a forensic child psychologist in a softly lit room with warm-colored walls and watercolor paintings of sailboats and trees. I stayed outside, pacing the hallway like my feet were wired to an invisible current. Emily sat across from me in silence. Her face was raw, older, grayed by guilt. 2 hours passed. When Claire finally emerged, she didn't look broken. She looked tired, yes, but also lighter. Her hands were steady, her eyes clear. The report came a week later, substantiated, detailed. We had our foundation, then. Sandra made her move. She filed an emergency restraining order against my brother and began proceedings to reopen an investigation into an old complaint, one that had been buried during his divorce years ago. Suddenly, dots began to connect. Whispers from the past, old babysitters. Stories people dismissed at the time as exaggerations. It wasn't just Claire. That was the hardest part to swallow. We moved quickly but quietly, protecting her name, her face, her story. At school, she began seeing the counselor regularly. At home, I let her call the shots. Some days, she wanted to talk. Others, she wanted silence. I gave her both. No pressure, no pretending. And then, a few weeks later, Claire surprised me. She asked to see Emily. I drove her there, hands clenched on the steering wheel the whole way. I offered to come in with her. She said no. They sat on the porch while I waited in the car. The windows were down. Could hear only fragments. Claire's voice was low but clear. Emily's was shaky, broken, interrupted by sobs. At one point, Claire stood. I thought she was walking away, but she stepped forward and hugged her just once. A brief, trembling gesture. When she came back to the car, she didn't say what was said. I didn't ask, but she smiled. Not a big one, just a small, private curve of the lips. "Do you feel better?" I asked. She shrugged. "Not better, just not holding it anymore." That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan above. My bed. I thought about my brother. Monsters don't always look like monsters. Sometimes they wear our last name. I thought about how many signs I ignored, how many gut feelings I smothered beneath logic and family loyalty. I hated myself for it, still do sometimes. But then I remembered what Claire had said. I just didn't want to hold it anymore. Neither did I. A few weeks later, the official charges were filed. We stayed quiet. Claire was given a victim's advocate and an assurance she'd never have to testify in front of him. He was arrested without incident. The mugshot hit local. Media people began whispering, reaching out, remembering. Emily chose to step away from the press, from statements, from everything. For once, she just listened. That was enough. Claire kept going to therapy. She started drawing again. Her hearts returned, but this time they weren't broken. I think they were whole, sometimes uneven, sometimes too big for the page, but full. One evening, I found a note on the fridge. Just 3 words, "Thank you, Dad." No hearts, no dramatic flourish. Just that, and I cried harder than I ever have. We never got our old life back, but we got something better. Truth. And from that truth, a future. Not perfect, but real. And that was enough. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for your time. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel. It really helps. Click the video on the screen, and I'll see you there.